You remember when you got her? You had hours and hours to just drive and dream. You spent your Saturdays fixing whatever needed fixing just to keep her running right. 20 years later, isn't it time you two got reacquainted? When you're ready, we're here. Because at LMC Truck, we know that while time may have passed, your passion for her never faded. Get her back on the road where she and you belong.
Now you're watching Gearz, brought to you by LMC Truck. Keep 'em on the road.
Hey, welcome to Gearz. You know, there comes a time in every project where all your fabrication is done and your design work and your pre-fitting, and it's time to put the vehicle together for real. Yeah, and this is an exciting time because this is really the first time you're going to get a glimpse of what the vehicle's going to look like and if you actually pulled off what you hoped you would. The only drawback to final assembly is inevitably you're going to hide some really cool details and some cool parts once you put the body back on. So everybody that looks at it is going to say exactly what you're saying now. What did we miss? What's down under there? So what we're going to do is rewind a little bit and show you what went into the final assembly of the SR-71 to get it to this stage. The first step was to finish up any frame modifications or fabrication. Then we dropped the frame and suspension pieces off to Mr. Speed Coatings to get them cleaned up and powder coated. The colors we used were titanium silver splatter on the frame, splatter brass on the rear end housing, and chrome silver on the link bars and A-arms. Then the frame was reassembled and all of the suspension components adjusted, greased, and cranked down a final time. The Master Power brake system was also installed. The big blown Cossi engine and performance automatic transmission were next. And even as nice as they were, they still needed a final coat of paint and detailing as well as final assembly. Now once we had everything detailed and put together the way we wanted it, we put on a coat of shark hide to protect the metal. And then we laid them to rest in the chassis. The nitrous-ready drive shaft from Denny's Drive Shafts connects it all together. The exhaust system is the next thing to go on, and even though it was awesome the way it came from Stainless Works, it still needed a coating to help keep the temperatures down and to protect the pipes. So we sent it off to Jet Hot to get a coat of their 2500 Ultra Extreme base coat and some custom stenciling. Now this coating is super tough and it'll handle pretty much any temperature you want to throw at it, and the stencils mimic the warnings that you're going to find on actual SR-71 engines. Now these are positioned so you'll be able to read them if you look under the truck. It's these kind of details that make a build like this really unique. The final step is the fuel tank, and that's just a matter of installing the brackets we made earlier and then sliding the tank in place between the exhaust pipes. And that's the chassis of the SR-71, all detailed and ready to go. Now, once you get to this point on your project, remember that this is probably going to be the last time you're going to have the body off for a while. So make sure you double check that everything is tight and adjusted while you still have easy access to everything. Okay, with the body bolted back down on, we are finally ready for wheels and tires. And if you'll remember, on this project, we're using a great handling modern suspension on the front, and then on the rear, a more traditional 4-link hot rod suspension, which means those big Corvette spindles and brakes here on the front require at least an 18-inch rim. But these big fat meats that are going on the rear, they only come in a 15-inch rim. So we needed a wheel that would combine these two worlds visually. So we went to Neely Precision and had them make us some. The center section is based on a classic Halla-brand wheel and whittled out of a solid piece of billet aluminum with state-of-the-art CNC machines. Custom beadlock rings were cut out as well. From there, everything went to almost chrome for a thorough polishing. And then finally, it was all dropped off to Mr. Speed Coatings for custom powder coating. Now, once we got everything back here, we mounted the Mickey Thompson tires, and then we added some Gardner Westcott polished stainless steel buttonhead screws as the final detail. All right, let me show you how this works. The beadlocks on all the wheels are the same size, measuring roughly 19.5 inches across. But on the front 18-inch rims, the beadlock starts at the top of the rim and then comes down, giving the illusion of a smaller rim. The rear beadlock starts around the top of the 15-inch rim and then goes out, giving the illusion of a bigger rim. So when you look at the wheels from the side, they look like they're the same size. But if you turn them around, you can really see how different they are in size. This is a great way to solve a common problem that you have messing with modern wheels and tires and suspension. Hey, welcome back to Gearz, where we are blasting through the assembly of the SR-71 Rapid Tool Express. Now, as you can see, the body is back on the chassis and the wheels and tires are on and the front sheet metal is put together. And with the stance and the blower and the T-bird bumper, man, this thing is looking awesome on the outside. Now we're gonna turn our attention to that interior and we're gonna finish that up. Come on. The floor and firewall are first. So we got sound deadening, we got carpet, and we got a firewall cover from LMC Truck. We're trimming them up now, and once we get everything all cleaned up here, we'll finish it off with some floor mats. We'll follow that with the I Did It brushed stainless steel tilt steering column. Now we have a matching column drop and floor mount to make a super clean assembly both under the dash and down on the floor through the carpet. The gauges are next, and there's no way we could use this original bezel and this original gauge and idiot lights on this truck. There's no way. So we had the guys at Neely Precision whittle us out a new bezel out of aluminum, and then we had the guys at Classic Instruments build us some custom gauges. Now check this out. You have the smaller temperature gauge and volts. Then over here you got oil and fuel around the perimeter. Then in the center you have the tach and the speedometer, and they all have the aircraft bezels around them so they look right. But if you look closely, come on back here, check this out. Look at the faces on there. You see the SR-71, you see artificial horizons. I mean, these are cool. Look like they came right out of an aircraft. Now, obviously, we need a special steering wheel, too. We found exactly what we were looking for at Billet Specialties in what they call the draft steering wheel. Now, this is a 14-inch aluminum wheel with a classic half-leather wrap that Billet Specialties is so famous for. But it was the cool styling of the spokes and the polish and the rivets and the leather that really sold us on this for this style of this build. It's going to look great in there. Now, to mount the wheel, we're using this low-profile brushed aluminum adapter and horn button from I Did It. Okay, anytime you're laying out an interior or doing electrical work, don't forget your wiring harness, because you don't want to reuse that old junk. Now for this project, we're going to use this Pro Series harness from Painless because it's specifically designed to make aftermarket parts work together. So things like that steering column and those gauges and this engine, this will make them all play together nicely because you have all the connections, all the hookups to make that happen. And now is the time to lay it out. Now, I know you've been wondering about these door panels. Well, knock it off. You're not supposed to see these yet. Get out of here. Get going. All right. If you insist. this is what we did on the door panels. This is something we created with the guys at Auto Customs in Kentucky. Now, we started out, we made these metal panels out of aluminum and rivets to match all the other aluminum rivets that we've done on the rest of the vehicle. Then this lower panel here is an original piece from LMC Truck. And then we made this panel and sent them off to the guys at Auto Customs. And they put the upholstery on. Now notice here at the bottom, they not only put a little pocket in there to give us more room, but it's also in the shape of an original SR-71 emblem. So that's really cool. Now even though these are 3 different pieces, they're designed to work together to look like one panel when they're all together. Of course, we finished it off with some handles from Locar. So now we're ready to put the seats in. And that brings us to the outside of the truck and the final details out here. Now for paint, we have a special military stealth paint that we're going to put on, and we have a special SR-71 logo that's going to go here. Now, some of you might be thinking, now wait a minute, weren't you going to put some Thunderbird fins and taillights back here? I was, but Thunderbird was not my first choice. My first choice was 60 Chrysler or DeSoto fins, and those are almost impossible to find unless you know where to look. Come on. Keep coming. Nothing to see here, nothing to see here. Keep coming. Nothing to see here, nothing to see here. A lot to see here. It's a 1960 DeSoto 4-door that was rotting away in the field. I found it here. Look at those fins. Look at that. That's the fin that I was after. That's what's going to go on the SR-71. So now that we've got our fins, and they're rust-free too, now that we've got our fins, we can put some wings on that thing.
And now, Shift Tech, brought to you by American Powertrain. Get your shift together.
There's no question that having a stick shift in your vehicle is popular these days. Unfortunately, most vehicles roll off the showroom floor with an automatic in them. So the burden falls on us as gearheads to convert all those automatic vehicles to a stick shift and remind everybody how much fun it is to shift your own gears. But how do you do that? Because there's a lot of information out there on YouTube and the internet, but not all of it is accurate. So today we're going to help shed some light on what to look for when you want to put a stick in your car truck project. Okay, these days most people are looking for a 6-speed transmission for the performance and the mileage. And their first stop is usually a salvage yard or eBay. So we're going to take a look at what you may find there. First is the LT1 style transmission from the 90s Camaros, Mustangs, and Firebirds. Now these were great transmissions, but they do have their limitations. First of all, they're not cheap. Expect to spend anywhere from $600 to $1,500 for one of these things. Also, they're not that strong. They were only built for about 400 horsepower. And the real biggie is they were built for specific vehicles. So to convert this to fit your project, you're gonna have to spend some money. For example, to make this fit behind an LS costs you $1,000. If you need to upgrade the shifter, it's about $600. And that's not even getting into like the clutch and the pressure plate and the throwout bearing and the cross member and all that other stuff. So you can drop a lot of money into one of these things and you still have a junkyard transmission. You don't know what's been going on inside there. So you need to be careful with one of these. The next transmission to be on the lookout for is the 660 6-speed that came in the 5th generation Camaros, Mustangs, Vipers, that kind of thing. Now obviously this is a great transmission. They'll handle up to 600 horsepower, so they're stronger than that, but they do have their limitations. They're every bit as expensive or more than that one is. And the shifting location is the biggest issue because these were made for specific cars. So you have one shifter location. So if the shifter doesn't fit your shifter location on the floor, you get to spend money to upgrade the shifter or cut your floor pans, whichever one you want to do. Also, notice that the tail shaft is kind of different. It requires a drive shaft flange. That's about $300. And also, notice that the transmission mount is odd. It uses a side bolt design. That will have to be converted. So you're going to have to put some money into one of these as well if you want to use a used transmission. But between the two, if you're going the junkyard route, this is the best one to get. All right, since you're obviously going to have to put some serious money into these to make them comparable to your project, how do they compare with just buying a brand new transmission from somebody like American Powertrain? Now, let's take a look at this. This is a new T56 Magnum. This is heavy duty all the way. It's got heavy duty gears, a heavy duty main shaft. These are tough. They'll handle over 700 horsepower, all kinds of torque. You can't hardly tear one of these up. But the big thing with these are the options. You've got 3 different shifter locations. You can run electric or mechanical speedometers. You have multiple cross-member options, all kinds of bell housing and clutch options. You literally can put one of these in just about anything. But obviously, it's more expensive than one of these out of a salvage yard. But by the time you get one of these modified and brought up to date, you're going to have almost the same amount of money in those that you would in a brand new one. Except this is new with a warranty. These are a question mark. So the choice is yours. Used or new. Only you can make that decision. But at least now you have some facts to help you make it.
Tool Tech, brought to you by Cornwell Tools, the choice of professionals.
You know, for the longest time, the best and only way to power a tool was with your own hands and arms. And obviously, everybody should have an assortment of wrenches and ratchets and screwdrivers in their toolbox. They are the heart of what we do, and there will always be a need for those. But then the air tool came out. And the game changed a little bit because now removing nuts and bolts got much quicker, and heavy-duty tools like impact guns, air hammers, and air saws allowed people to do things that they hadn't been able to do before. And having an assortment of air tools has always been an important part of any mechanic's or fabricator's toolbox. However, recently there has been a rise in the popularity of the cordless power tool. Now, it wasn't too long ago that people kind of considered these a joke, because they didn't last very long and they weren't very strong. But that has changed because now, with high-tech motors and new battery technology, the cordless power tool is rapidly challenging the corded tool and the air tool as the power tool of choice. Take a look. Now, obviously, they've got the typical stuff like you'd expect, like variable speed drills and lights and ratchets and that kind of thing. But there's also heavy-duty tools like impact guns and grinders and jigsaws, even reciprocating saws. These now have the power, cordless, to do the work, which is great for taking them out onto remote locations. No more messing with a cord. So now you have your power tools to go with your air tools to go with your hand tools. And now you have no excuse not to be getting out there and getting some work done.
And now, Parts Bin.
With the popularity of the 73 through 87 GM trucks, man, it's no wonder people want to make them nice and solid like they were when they were new. And the best way to do that is with weather stripping from steel rubber. Now, as you can see, they have both the one-piece and the two-piece vent window weather stripping. They have the belt line strips. They have the weather stripping for the side glass. They have door weather stripping. They even have the gaskets for the rear glass and the windshield with different locking strips, so you have some options here. And just like all steel products, they're made with top quality materials in the USA, so you know they're going to last every bit as long as your original pieces. If you want years of trouble-free miles down the road with no leaks or squeaks, you better seal it up with steel rubber products. There are 3 things that everybody would like to get out of their truck, whether it's gas or diesel. More power, more torque, and better fuel economy. But you can't get all 3 of those at the same time, can you? Well, you can now with Bully Dog's new BDX Performance Handheld Programmer, because this allows your custom tuning dealer to send custom tunes right to this device through Wi-Fi over the cloud, so you're always going to be up to date. This will allow you to increase horsepower and torque, monitor engine parameter in real time, record PCM data, read and clear codes, and store up to 20 custom tunes. If you're not using something like this, You're just not getting the best performance that you can over all performance parameters. It's a simple solution that at one time people thought was impossible. Now, Bully Dog's got it.
What are you working on? Brought to you by Woodward Fabrication, selling quality metalworking equipment since 1966.
Today's What Are You Working On comes from Tony Capretti from Lebanon, Pennsylvania, and his project is a 1966 Ford F100 short bed. Now, he said that he found this thing when he was in high school. He bought it for $450. That was in 1979. He said he drove it for a while, and unfortunately a fender bender sidelined the truck for what should have been some simple repairs. Yeah, but as you know, sometimes life has other plans. And for Tony, the plans were joining the Navy after high school. Then he got married, and then he had kids, so Tony's restoration has taken about 40 years. Yeah, some of us can relate to that. But as you can see here, he replaced all the rusty metal with new metal, welded it in. He redid the suspension front and rear, and since he now has red oak in the bed instead of the metal, he also decided to repaint the truck the original red color as well. Now, there's two things that are really cool here. First of all, he still has a truck. That's like almost impossible. And number two, he had something cool in high school. Most of us had hand-me-down junk back then. So to recognize a cool project, Tony, we're gonna give you one of these bead rollers from Woodward Fab. Comes with the roller and a bunch of dies so you can make some really cool panels for that truck. Also, since you're obviously a gearhead, we're going to give you a Gearz t-shirt, and we're going to give you a project planning book so you can keep track of everything you've done to that truck and what you're going to do to the truck and keep you on track with your budget. Also, we're going to give you a copy of the purple bicycle so you can remember what it was like to be a kid and have a bicycle. Now, for the rest of you guys, if you want to get in on this, get your project featured on the show, go to the website, go to Gearz Nation, and submit it into What Are You Working On. The website's also the place to find out more information on any products you may have seen on the show, any Gearz merchandise, and how to join Gearz Nation so you can stream any of our episodes commercial-free. Finally, don't forget to like us on Facebook so you can get some behind-the-scenes footage of our weekly web series, Shifting Gears. All right, that wraps it up for us today. Obviously, I have fins that I need to put on the SR-71, which means it's time for you to get out there and find something to work on and finish it, even if it takes you 40 years to do it. It's going to be worth it. We'll see you next time.